welcome back to Score Connect. I'm Anna-Vija, your host, and we are continuing our conversation today with Clark Buckner. Clark is the co-founder of Relationary Marketing, and he is talking to us about all things podcasting. Podcasts, lots of podcasts.
Yeah, there's like over 1 million podcasts, but
a few.
There's at least half of those have what we've called pod faded out, meaning, that's a real word, pod faded out. I know, my wife laughs at me when I say that too. They start and they just
they fizzle and they fizzle.
They didn't think through the 5 steps that we're going to talk about of deciding if you're going to do this. You got to put the time into it.
It's work. You mentioned before the break about consistency being the most important thing. So whether it's once a month or once a week or twice a week or every day or whatever it is, it's probably a little much. So for small business owners, one of the challenges that we have to constantly face is where to spend our time. What's the highest and best use of our time? Where are we going to get that ROI, that return on investment? And how can we leverage that into growing our business? So when we're thinking about starting a podcast as a business owner, it kind of depends, right? What are those things that we need to be considering to determine if it's the right fit? How do we get started?
Okay, I love the way you tee that up, because business owners, you're already spread so many ways.
All the things.
And whether it's podcasting or anything, it's all about reusing, recycling content, because you definitely have to be marketing your business one way or another. So if you do think about podcasting, there's 5 steps, and the number 1 is the most important, and that is, what are your goals? How does the content of your podcast, how does the content design wrap around your goals? So
do people skip that step a lot?
They start instantly talking about the microphones they should maybe get, or they start thinking about maybe what they should call the podcast.
What's the logo look like?
And here's the thing, maybe you just want to do a podcast for fun, and that's okay. If you're going to do it in a business sense where you're spending your time, you're spending your limited resources, there's some steps you got to follow.
Yeah.
So number 1, it is content design. It's thinking about frequency, like you mentioned. If you start, you want to have a stop in mind, so you don't end up going until the wheels fall off. So I like to suggest maybe a season 1, maybe 12 episodes every other week, maybe once a week. Once a week is still a pretty
ambitious.
Tight fuse.
Yeah.
It's a lot of content.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are the things you're thinking about with your content design. It includes your host, the sound, the feel, the format of the show. You can do a format where it opens with like a hook, a gold moment. Typically, if it's a podcast that has like a business interest, you want the listener to think, wow, how is this going to help me? You want to scratch that itch, have that intro really quick, have a little music, and all the music is important, and then it goes to the full content, and then boom, outro.
So like an intro, the content, the outro.
You want to map this out all in advance. What you don't want to do is start one podcast episode, publish it, and now it's, okay, what next? So,
and then pod fade out?
And then you pod fade out. You're in the graveyard of podcasts. So you want to have a couple. I like to think of it at Relationary. We talk a lot about the Pez dispenser.
Okay.
I love the Pez candy.
Yeah.
So you want to get several episodes locked in, completely done. So you can pop that Pez off each episode.
Make a little library.
Right. So then you're publishing that.
So what do you do once you've defined your goals? What's that next step?
The first one is the biggest, but once you define the goals, what success looks like, because somebody's asking, was this successful? And it's a lot more than download numbers.
Yes, yes.
It's a lot. There's so many more things. So after that, it's the invite. If it's most of the time an interview-based show, who you invite on matters. That gives you a chance for that relationship nurturing.
You got to invite good people on your show. You have to have good people.
I'm still surprised I'm even sitting here, so I'm just so happy you brought me
got all
on.
the podcasting knowledge,
Well,
Clark.
thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and part of that ask and that invite, it does feel good. I was so happy that you asked me to do this, and that same feeling is what your guests are going to get.
You want that to shine through the programming.
And when you make that invite, you give them, this is what I want you, this is why I want to talk to you. Not only does that make them feel like, oh yeah, I really want to be brought on for these reasons, but it helps them not accidentally hijack the interview.
Sure, sure.
Step 3 is, that's when I first start talking about recording. This is the first time I'll even mention equipment. But this is your recording environment, and you can order some items. and do this from home.
I got a very nice mechanical boom arm that
There's
sits
some
on my
options.
desk, and I get lots of compliments. It was $20 whole from Amazon.
So you can do, there's actually, you know what's interesting? I would rather take a lower priced microphone like that in a really well treated room.
Yeah.
So you can even put packing blankets up or pillows and things that absorb sound.
Yeah.
I would rather have less echo in the rooms. Anyway, little tips like that.
Yeah.
You can go down a rabbit hole. Step 4, this is the post-production. This is when you are adding in your music. I mentioned music earlier, and I get excited about that because our clients, especially those who are out of beyond Nashville,
Oh
get
gosh,
really
there's no shortage here.
get excited when I tell them that all the music we have for our shows are made by a local musician. It's all completely original for them. We don't use stock music.
Yeah.
So that's a cool, that is when you're following your compass of your content design. You assemble it, boom, make sure it's not too loud or appropriate loudness. A lot of podcasts are really quiet. You're driving, the GPS, turn left
Ding.
on Broadway,
Yeah.
and it's really, really loud. So you got to find that right. So 5th final step, publishing. Not only is this going into Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of those destinations, this is also when it's on your website. You want to think through having a blog post. You want to not only have blog text content for Google and SEO juice, but accessibility too. That matters as well.
Yeah.
So that's the 5 steps. But it all comes back. What are the goals?
And if you can't define the goals, then you don't know if you're successful. You don't know what your ROI metrics are. You don't know if it's worth your time
from the beginning.
Right.
And then all these cooks in the kitchen, especially with corporate podcasts, a lot of people care about it, but a lot of people have different priorities, and you got to agree 1, maybe 2 goals. This is how we'll measure success, and you do a download like a single download is not a valuable metric. You want to think about, is this creating meaningful touch points with our team? We do shows with Thin Partners. There's a Bridgestone podcast. It's for internal mainly, though. They're employees. It's a way to connect what is happening at this incredible company. So it gives them a chance to, if you could have someone's time and attention for 25 minutes, that is unbelievable in the swipe world.
Is that the time frame that you recommend? So let's say I'm a
average
small
commute
business owner.
time.
I own a marketing agency. I'm going to start a podcast about marketing tips and how to grow your business. 25-ish minutes.
I like 25 minutes as a guide because average commute time one way is about 25 minutes.
That makes sense.
Also, we're kind of accustomed to think about, we think a lot of episodes on TV, that's around that length. So that's another reason why we like that. But ultimately, it comes back to the goals and who's your audience and how are you trying to serve them.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I like the priority that you're setting on the importance of a small business owner's time. And a podcast might be a good investment, or it might be a lot of effort towards something that doesn't necessarily yield an ROI for them, which makes total sense.
ROI, exactly right. You got to have that figured out. And podcasting is a great option for them to consider.
For the middle. Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll be back with Clark in just a few minutes to wrap up and learn more about where we can get even more information. We'll see you soon.